What happens when Hollywood's most respected voice meets late-night television's most controversial host? You won't believe what unfolds when Morgan Freeman sits down with Jimmy Kimmel and everything goes spectacularly wrong. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone bad. This is a complete meltdown that left the studio audience in stunned silence, and Freeman walking off the set in disgust. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds when two entertainment giants collide in the most explosive confrontation late-night TV has ever seen. Last night's episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live started like any other. But within minutes, the atmosphere in the Hollywood Boulevard studio became electric with tension. Morgan Freeman, the 86-year-old acting legend known for his calm demeanor and iconic voice, had agreed to appear on the show to promote his latest documentary project. What should have been a respectful conversation between two entertainment veterans quickly devolved into something nobody saw coming. The trouble began before Freeman even took his seat. As the cameras rolled and Kimmel delivered his opening monologue, he made what many are calling a tasteless joke about Freeman's age, suggesting that the actor was so old he probably remembered when the Bible was just a rough draft. The studio audience laughed nervously, but those paying attention could see Freeman's jaw tighten as he waited backstage. When Freeman finally walked out to thunderous applause, the tension was already palpable. Kimmel, wearing his trademark smirk, seemed oblivious to the storm he had just created. Freeman took his seat with the grace and dignity that had made him a beloved figure across generations. But something in his eyes suggested this wouldn't be the pleasant chat Kimmel was expecting. "Morgan, great to have you here," Kimmel began, his voice carrying that false enthusiasm that late-night hosts perfect over years of practice. "I hope you caught my opening bit. Pretty good stuff, right?" Freeman's response was measured but cold. "I heard it, Jimmy. Not sure good is the word I'd use." The first crack in Kimmel's composure showed immediately. His smile faltered for just a moment before he tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, Morgan. You've got to have a sense of humor about these things. I mean, you've been around forever. That's not an insult. That's respect for longevity." "Longevity," Freeman repeated, his famous voice carrying a weight that made the word sound like a judgment. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Kimmel, perhaps sensing he was losing control of the interview, decided to double down rather than back off. "Look, I'm just saying, you've had an incredible career. You've been in what, like 100 movies? You've probably worked with every actor in Hollywood. Hell, you probably taught some of them how to act." The audience laughed, but Freeman didn't join in. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and studied Kimmel with the intensity of a man who had spent decades reading people and situations. "Jimmy, let me ask you something. Do you think age automatically makes someone irrelevant?" No, of course not," Kimmel stammered, suddenly realizing he was walking into dangerous territory. "I'm just, having fun. This is entertainment." "Entertainment?" Freeman said, letting the word hang in the air like smoke. "And who exactly is being entertained here, Jimmy? Your audience? Or just you?" The studio fell uncomfortably quiet. Even the usually reliable laugh track seemed to have abandoned Kimmel in his moment of need. The host's face began to redden as he realized that this wasn't going according to script. Freeman wasn't playing along with the typical late-night banter. Instead, he was turning the tables, making Kimmel the subject of scrutiny. "I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot here," Kimmel said, his voice betraying a hint of desperation. "Let's talk about your new documentary." "It's about—" "No, Jimmy," Freeman interrupted, his voice cutting through Kimmel's attempt to redirect. "Let's not change the subject just yet. You opened the show by making jokes about my age, suggesting I'm some kind of relic from a bygone era. You did that in front of millions of people, without my consent, before I even had a chance to defend myself. Now you want to move on like nothing happened?" Kimmel's trademark confidence was crumbling in real time. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his eyes darting between Freeman and the cameras. "Morgan, look, it was just a joke. I joke about everyone. That's what I do." "That's what you do," Freeman repeated, his tone growing sharper. "You make jokes at other people's expense. You punch down instead of up. You use your platform to diminish rather than elevate." The legendary actor paused, letting his words sink in. "Tell me, Jimmy, when did entertainment become synonymous with humiliation?" The question hit Kimmel like a physical blow. His mouth opened and closed several times before he managed to speak. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone. It's comedy. Sometimes comedy pushes boundaries. Whose boundaries, Jimmy? Freeman's voice had taken on the commanding tone that had made him famous in countless films. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like the only boundaries being pushed are mine. You've decided that because I'm older, because I've been around longer, I'm fair game for ridicule. Is that the kind of comedy that makes you proud? But what happened next would turn this already tense exchange into something far more explosive. As Kimmel's response revealed just how deep his disrespect truly ran, Kimmel's face twisted into something ugly, the mask of television charm finally slipping completely. You know what, Morgan? Maybe you need to lighten up a little. This is exactly why nobody wants to work with difficult actors anymore. You can't take a joke. You turn everything into some kind of lecture. And frankly, you're being a real pain in the ass right now. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The studio audience gasped audibly, clearly shocked by their host's sudden shift from nervous comedy into outright hostility. Freeman's eyes narrowed, and for the first time since sitting down, a flash of genuine anger crossed his weathered features. Difficult? Freeman's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. But somehow it carried more menace than if he had shouted. Let me tell you what's difficult, Jimmy. Difficult is sitting here while you reduce 50 years of my career to cheap punchlines. Difficult is watching you disrespect not just me, but every older person in your audience who deserves better than this garbage. Kimmel, apparently realizing he had crossed a line but too proud to back down, made things even worse. Oh please, spare me the righteous indignation. You Hollywood types are all the same. You love to lecture everyone about respect and dignity. But where was that respect when you were making millions playing God in movies? When you were cashing checks for narrating documentaries about penguins? What the hell did you just say? Freeman's composure finally cracked, his voice rising for the first time. The legendary calm that had defined his public persona for decades was evaporating in real time. Are you seriously sitting there questioning my career choices? My body of work? I'm questioning why you think you're above being the butt of a joke. Kimmel shot back, his voice getting shriller by the second. You want to know what's really difficult? Having to kiss ass to every overpaid actor who walks through that door, pretending like your latest vanity project is the most important thing in the world. At least I'm being honest about what this is. Freeman stood up abruptly, his chair rolling backward. The sudden movement sent a ripple of tension through the studio. Honest? You call this honesty? This is you being a bully with a microphone and a captive audience. This is you using your platform to tear people down because it makes you feel bigger. Sit down, Morgan, Kimmel said. But his command lacked any real authority. He was clearly rattled by Freeman's physical reaction, and his voice betrayed just how far out of his depth he had wandered. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? Freeman's laugh was bitter and sharp. Jimmy, you started making a scene the moment you decided my age was comedy material. You made a scene when you brought me on this show under false pretenses. And you're damn right I'm making a scene now, because somebody needs to call you out on this shit. The profanity from Freeman sent another shock through the audience. This wasn't the calm, measured voice they knew from 1,000 movie trailers. This was a man pushed beyond his breaking point by someone who had mistaken his dignity for weakness. Kimmel, sensing the interview was spiraling completely out of control, made a desperate attempt to regain authority. Look, if you can't handle the heat of a simple interview, maybe you shouldn't be doing publicity anymore. Maybe it's time to admit you're past your prime and just enjoy your golden years quietly. The studio fell dead silent. Even the camera operators seemed frozen as they witnessed what was clearly career-ending territory for someone involved. Freeman's face went through a series of expressions: disbelief, rage, and finally, something that looked almost like pity. Past my prime? Freeman's voice was now ice-cold fury. Let me tell you something about being past your prime, Jimmy. Past your prime is thinking that cheap shots and cruel humor make you relevant. Past your prime is mistaking cruelty for comedy. Past your prime is being so insecure about your own talent that you have to tear down your betters to feel important. My betters? Kimmel scoffed, but his voice cracked on the words. What makes you better than me? Your age? Your awards? You're what exactly? My character, Freeman replied without hesitation. Something you clearly know nothing about. The exchange had moved far beyond entertainment into something genuinely ugly. What had started as professional tension had become personal warfare, and everyone in the studio could feel that they were witnessing something that would have consequences far beyond this single taping. Kimmel, perhaps realizing he was losing this battle badly, decided to go nuclear. You know what, Morgan? I think I know what this is really about. You're mad because Hollywood doesn't need you anymore. You're angry because the phone doesn't ring like it used to. You're taking out your frustration about being forgotten on me. And frankly, it's pathetic. But Kimmel had no idea that his next words would be the final straw that would send this confrontation into its explosive conclusion. You want to know what I really think? Kimmel said, his voice dripping with venom as he leaned forward in his chair. I think you're just another old actor who can't accept that his time is over. You're clinging to relevance like a life raft, and when someone like me makes a harmless joke, you lose your shit because deep down, you know I'm right. You're yesterday's news, Morgan. A relic. And no amount of righteous anger is going to change that fact. The words hit Freeman like a physical blow, but instead of breaking him, they seemed to crystallize something inside the legendary actor. His entire posture shifted, and when he spoke, his voice carried the full weight of 5 decades in Hollywood. A relic, Freeman repeated slowly, almost wonderingly. Yesterday's news. He took a step closer to Kimmel's desk, and the host actually recoiled slightly. Jimmy, do you have any idea what you've just revealed about yourself? Do you understand what you've just admitted to the world? What the hell are you talking about? Kimmel snapped. But his bravado was clearly forced now. He could sense that something fundamental had shifted in the room. You've just shown everyone exactly who you really are, Freeman said, his voice building in power and intensity. You're not a comedian. You're not an entertainer. You're a small, bitter man who gets his kicks from trying to diminish people who've accomplished things you never could. You're a playground bully who never grew up, and now you have a television show to enable your cruelty. The studio was completely silent except for the hum of cameras and equipment. Even the production crew seemed transfixed by what they were witnessing. That's bullshit, Kimmel protested, but his voice lacked conviction. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've interviewed everyone. You've what? Freeman interrupted, his voice cutting through Kimmel's protests like a blade. Built a career on making people uncomfortable? Congratulations, Jimmy. That's quite an achievement. Tell me, when you go home at night, are you proud of moments like this? When you look in the mirror, do you like what you see? Kimmel's face was now bright red, a mixture of embarrassment and rage. You don't know anything about me. You don't know what it takes to what? To be a decent human being? Freeman's voice was rising again, but this time it wasn't anger driving it. It was disgust. Jimmy, I've met a lot of people in my time. Good people, bad people, and everything in between. But I have rarely encountered someone so committed to their own cruelty, so invested in their own smallness. Fuck you, Morgan, Kimmel spat, abandoning all pretense of professionalism. Fuck your sanctimonious bullshit. You think you're better than everyone else, but you're just another actor with an ego the size of... No, Freeman said, cutting him off with a single word that somehow carried more power than Kimmel's entire tirade. I don't think I'm better than everyone else, but I sure as hell know I'm better than this. Better than you. Better than what you represent. Freeman began walking toward the edge of the stage, but he wasn't finished. He turned back to face Kimmel one last time, and when he spoke, his voice filled the entire studio. You want to know what separates us, Jimmy? It's not age. It's not success. It's not even talent. It's character. It's the choice between building people up or tearing them down. It's the difference between using your platform to spread joy and using it to spread poison. You've chosen poison, Jimmy, and that choice tells everyone watching exactly what kind of man you are. Where the hell do you think you're going? Kimmel shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. We're not done here. Freeman stopped at the edge of the stage and looked back one final time. Yes, we are. We are absolutely done here. And do you know why? Because I refuse to be part of whatever sick entertainment you think this is. I refuse to let you turn my dignity into your punchline. I refuse to enable your cruelty for one more second. You can't just walk off. Kimmel was standing now, his face twisted with rage and humiliation. This is my show. You don't get to watch me, Freeman said simply, and continued walking. The studio erupted into chaos. Audience members were on their feet, some applauding Freeman's exit, others sitting in stunned silence. Production assistants scurried around trying to figure out what to do. Kimmel stood behind his desk like a captain on a sinking ship, watching his interview and possibly his reputation disappear into the wings. You think you're some kind of hero? Kimmel screamed after Freeman, his voice echoing through the studio. You think walking out makes you the good guy? You're just a coward. A has-been, who can't handle the real world. But Freeman was already gone, vanished into the backstage area, with the same quiet dignity he had maintained throughout most of his career. The cameras continued rolling, capturing Kimmel's meltdown in all its ugly glory. For several long moments, Kimmel stood there breathing heavily, looking around the studio as if seeing it for the first time. The audience was still buzzing, uncertain whether they had just witnessed television history or television disaster. Production staff were frantically trying to signal to Kimmel, but he seemed oblivious to their attempts at damage control. Finally, one of the producers approached the desk and whispered urgently in Kimmel's ear. The host nodded mechanically, straightened his tie, and looked directly into the camera. Well, he said, his voice shaky and uncertain. I guess that's all for tonight, folks. We'll be right back after these messages. But as the applause sign lit up and the studio band began playing the show's theme music, everyone in that Hollywood studio knew they had just witnessed something unprecedented. They had seen a legend walk away with his dignity intact, while a television host revealed the ugliness beneath his polished exterior. Morgan Freeman had entered that studio as a guest and left as something more, a man who had drawn a line in the sand and refused to cross it, no matter what the cost. And Jimmy Kimmel? He remained behind, standing in the wreckage of an interview that would be remembered long after his show was forgotten. The confrontation was over, but its impact would be felt for years to come.